The initial wave of transfers hitting the NCAA Transfer Portal has come to a close. Let's recap everything that happened to Arizona State, both in the loss and the gain department, and then talk about the potential holes that need to be filled for this team on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
Are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. Remember, the podcast is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you want to see us in a visual platform, wherever you're getting your podcast, though, hit like and subscribe and turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can get me at RichieBrads36, and you can get the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Before we get started with today's episode, though, Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout and get that extra $30 off your order. Definitely check it out. Omaha Steaks are the best. Let's go ahead and hop into today's conversation, focusing around the transfer portal once again. Yesterday, we talked about the not a big board, but like the 10 guys who I really want to see come to Arizona State. Now let's rehash what's going on with Arizona State. And that's what we're going to do with the first part of this podcast here. We're going to go through what Arizona State has lost so far, and they've lost quite a bit. 11 players have entered the transfer portal for the team. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Technically 12, but Stanley Lambert is not a guy I feel we need to discuss because if you want to do your own research, do your own research. But he's got his own demons that he's currently fighting. But there are 11 players for the Sun Devils that are in the transfer portal, including the Markham brothers who entered back in October. Running through the list real quick: quarterback Paul Tyson, running back Daniyel Ngata, offensive lineman LaDarius Henderson, defensive lineman Joe Moore, Anthonie Cooper, and Omarr Norman-Lott, defensive backs Keon Markham and Kejuan Markham, again, both entered in October, kicker Jace Feeley, and long snappers John Furlman and Gage King. All of them have entered the transfer portal, and that's quite a bit of guys. But let's take a step back and just realize that this is not nearly as bad as what the team faced last year. Like, I understand that's 11 players, but none of them, well, not none of them. Let me walk that back. These guys aren't like derailing your season the way some of the guys you lost last year were. Like, you lost Jaden Daniels. That was brutal. You lost Ricky Pearsall and Johnny Wilson. You lost Chip Trayanum. There was a lot of really big losses last year that just piled up. These guys, I'm looking right now. Daniyel Ngata hurts. LaDarius Henderson really hurts. Omarr Norman-Lott stinks. Anthonie Cooper stinks. Joe Moore stinks. But there's not one loss where I sit there and I'm like, man, that's going to ruin the season. The way that Jaden Daniels' departure kind of left that taste in your mouth of, man, it just, the season's already over. You haven't had that yet. And hopefully, knock on wood, you don't have that kind of loss this year. But right now, it's just, it's a lot of bodies, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where you already were struggling last year. So this is once again going to be a very brand new looking defense, because on top of losing those 5 players, 3 on the defensive line and 2 in the defensive secondary, you're also losing Merlin Robertson and Kyle Soley, Trevez Moore, Nessa Jade Silvera, TJ Pesifea. Who else are you going to be losing? It's like a who's who. Corey Bethley, Tamarcus Davis. There's a lot of guys that you're going to have to replace. The good news is the core that you have returning were some of your better defenders, like Ro Torrance is back. Ed Woods is back. You have Connor Soley is coming back. Chris Edmonds should be returning as well. So while you have lost quite a bit right off the bat, it could have been a lot worse. And there's still time. It's only day one. There's still time for kids to enter the portal. But there's also a lot of time for the portal to benefit Arizona State, which is what I want to note real quick, is Arizona State does have their first commit in the form of Tristan Monday. Monday was the defensive end edge rusher from Wisconsin. He was a former 3-star, actually played out in Scottsdale, I believe Saguaro. Don't quote me on that. But Tristan Monday was coming home and didn't get any playing time in Wisconsin, is in line for a lot of playing time for Arizona State right now because, again, you no longer will have Joe Moore, Anthonie Cooper, Omarr Norman-Lott, Trevez Moore, TJ Pasifea, and Nesta Jade Silvera. That is 6 guys from your defensive line that are gone for one reason or another. Returning Michael Matus off an ACL tear. BJ Green, back-to-back years of being at least tied for the team lead in sacks, and some other youngsters that you're going to be developing. I know Robbie Harrison is going into his redshirt freshman year now as well. Tristan Monday is definitely a welcome addition because this is quite frankly, a decimated defensive line right now that needs a lot of help. And we'll get to that a little later on in this show. But for right now, those are the losses. Where I stand with them, go through them real quick again. Paul Tyson, this is a loss everyone saw coming. He didn't get on the field hardly at all for Arizona State. I think he only saw the field against NAU at the very beginning of the year. Other than that, he's just not a fit for what Kenny Dillingham is going to want to do. Daniyel Ngata hurts. That's a tough loss. Same with LaDarius Henderson, who's best your offensive lineman. Unfortunately, he had missed probably close to half the season with injury this year, but you would have loved to have had a guy like him back. Defensive line, all 3 of them hurt. Joe Moore, Anthonie Cooper, Omarr Norman-Lott, those were 3 starters for you, and you're going to have to replace them now. That's going to be tough. The Markham brothers, you had already worked on replacing them mid-season, so you're already a couple steps ahead. Jace Feeley, Carter Brown is the kicker of the future, for better or for worse. And then the long snappers, John Furlman and Gage King, long snappers are a dime a dozen. Like, it's not a shot at them. It's not me trying to be offensive to them or anything like that, but you can get a long snapper without any issue. So they'll be able to replace that, no problem. So the losses aren't bad right now. Could be worse. You could end up losing some guys for NIL deals like what happened last year. But as of right now, as of this podcast, that is what is going on in the losses department for the team. Let's go ahead and hop into our first break. When we return, we'll go ahead and pick it up where we left off. First, I want to talk to you guys, however, about our friends over at Omaha Steaks. The holidays are here. Achieve gifting greatness when you give the gift of perfectly aged, tender, and delicious Omaha steaks. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have put together special curated gift packages to help take the guesswork out of out of gifting and make you a holiday hero. Go to omahasteaks.com and take advantage of the 50% off site-wide. Plus, use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout to get an additional $30 off of your order. Send an assortment of mouthwatering flavors guaranteed to impress, like the legendary Butcher's Cut Filet Mignon, air-chilled boneless chicken, ultra juicy burgers, and even easy-to-prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away, so shop early and beat the shipping rush. Go to omahasteaks.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com. 50% off site-wide. Plus, use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout to get an extra $30 off your order. Minimum order may be required. Guys, if you have not checked out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, I cannot recommend it enough. Make it your second listen of the day, from the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. let's go ahead and continue our conversation now where we left off. That's kind of where you're at with the current losses. Is I don't sit here and feel completely defeated with what has been lost so far. The defensive line scares me. You're losing 6 guys from this year for one reason or another. That is going to be incredibly difficult to fix. And it's going to take a lot to overcome that, which is why I am placing the defensive line at the very top of my list for what you need to replace via the transfer portal. That is the number one need, is rebuilding this defensive line. Guys, you did not have a lot of sacks in 2022. I'm going to pull it up right now, but I'm pretty sure you had less than 20 sacks on the year. And of those 20 sacks, only 3.5 of them are coming back. You had 17 sacks last year. 3.5 of them are coming back. 2.5 from BJ Green and 1 from Ed Woods. Other than that, I can't remember if I said Trevezmore is gone as well. So you lost Anthonie Cooper's 2.5. You lost TJ Pesifea's 2.5. You lost Omarr Norman-Lott's 2. You lost Joe Mower's 2. You lost Nesta Jade Silvera's half, and you lost Trevezmore's half. For what it's worth, you also lost Corey Bethley with his sack and Merlin Robinson with his 2.5 sacks. So you have 3.5 sacks coming back after a year where you only recorded 17 sacks as a team. That is going to be almost impossible to overcome without some serious renovations. So that is undoubtedly the top need for you right now, is to rebuild this defensive line. And you do have, or no, Colin Fight is no longer coming to ASU. He decommitted sometime last week, and that was your lone defensive lineman that was coming in, I believe. Everyone else was kind of scattered around the secondary. Yeah, I got it up in front of me now. You got some secondary guys and you got a couple linebackers. There are no defensive linemen that are coming in this recruiting class. Colin Fight was the one guy, and he decommitted. You'll have R.L. Miller and Ziri Alexander at linebacker. And then you'll have some younger guys in the secondary as well, like a Marion Atwood, Adonis Forrest, and Chase Davis. That is anything but ideal. So right now, I have no idea where the pass rush is coming from. So top of the list, Tristan Monday's coming in, immediately fills a really nice void for you, potentially a starter. Michael Matus coming back from an ACL will also fill a void for you. Pencil him in as a starter. Pencil him in as a captain for the team. Then you have BJ Green and Robbie Harrison. Right now, that is your starting defensive line more than likely. And that's terrifying, considering you've had almost no playing experience from them last year, short of BJ Green. Because Matus missed the whole year. Monday didn't get to play, and Harrison redshirted. So, kind of scary. Next, I'd want to put linebacker, but I'm not going to, because even though you are losing Kyle Sully and Merlin Robertson to the pros, you haven't lost anyone to the transfer portal just yet. And Will Schaefer and James Joncom are going to be in line for starting positions, plus the 2 guys that we already mentioned in that recruiting class that are coming in as well. And then Connor Sully's back. Secondary, I'm not overly worried about it because there are reinforcements coming in. Plus, Chris Edmonds and Ro Torrance should be back as well, and Ed Woods. So the defensive line, especially, I'm going to be looking at the offensive line as well, because LaDarius Henderson is gone. As of right now, Ben Scott should be back, I believe, as a graduate for his final year of eligibility. But Des Holmes and Chris Martinez were graduate transfers. They'll be gone from the program. So that's 3 offensive linemen that are gone right now. I'm not sure about the depth behind them, because ASU did a lot of shuffling this year, and there was a lot of not great results. So the offensive line is definitely going to be my number 2. you just gotta, with Kenny Dillingham coming in, you need to be able to protect whoever is at quarterback. And if that's Bourget, or if that's Emory Jones, or if it's a transfer kid, or maybe it's Isaiah. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. A kid who's coming in, a quarterback. What is your name? Carter? Israel Carter. I said Isaiah. Israel Carter is coming in. He could potentially be starting for you as well. But bottom line is, you're going to need somebody to block for these quarterbacks and also pay some run lanes. That's where my number 3 is running back. Yes, Tevin White is a 4-star running back. Yes, he showed pretty nice flashes. He had 20 carries last year, something like that. There is a lot of unfamiliarity. Charles Hall did not get a lot of opportunities this past year as well. He's a depth guy. Deontay Elliott was not active on the roster at all. Other than that, I don't know what else we have. So, got to go out there and get a running back. I talked about Trey Sanders yesterday on the podcast. I'll throw his name out there again. That's a 5-star running back from University of Alabama. That's all you need to know. It's different than when you're getting a quarterback from Alabama. When you're getting a running back from Alabama, I feel pretty good that they're going to be a quality player. And then finally, I'm going to put quarterback as my 4th need. Now, Trenton Bourget and Emory Jones could both flourish in Kenny Dillingham's offense. Bo Nix went from a decent, at best, college quarterback to a legitimate Heisman contender. Didn't end up making the trip to New York, but had a Heisman-worthy campaign, 41 touchdowns. I have no doubt that Bourget and Emory Jones can have really good success. However, you can upgrade, and DJ Uiagalelei is in the transfer portal. So throw whatever you got to do at him to get him to come to your program, because that man is a difference maker. And he is absolutely somebody that I want starting at quarterback for me, regardless of whether or not he's going to go to the pros or whatever. He is good enough. He's at a minimum as good as Bo Nix, and Bo Nix just had 41 touchdowns. So, yeah, go get DJ Uiagalelei, or maybe Jeff Sims, or Luke. I can't think of his last name. Altmaier. Luke Altmaier from Ole Miss. Plenty of guys to take a look at. Go ahead and grab someone. Let's go and hop into our final break now. When we return, we're going to wrap this whole thing up in a nice little bow. But before we get that far, let me tell you about our friends over at Built Bar. Let's pause for a second. All right, we're paused. Great, because you got to try this. I'm talking about Built Bar's new reimagined flavors: cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, and coconut brownie topper. White chocolate peppermint granola. It's Built's take on the granola bar, so it's more filling and it's insanely tasty. And candy cane brownie puff. Built Puffs are like biting into the universe's most delicious cloud. First off, for anyone who hasn't tried Built Bars before, they're literally the best tasting protein bars ever built, pun intended. They're revolutionizing nutrition as we know it, with 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, and shockingly low sugar and calories. 130 calories, guys. Just sink your teeth into that first bite and it'll change your life forever. I'm not kidding. There will be a time before you tried these Built flavors, and there will be a time after, and the magical, wonderful times ahead. You're probably wondering which of these new ones is my favorite. It's an unanswerable question, to say the least, although I am very particular about those peppermint ones. They're all unbelievable. They're all so different. So you can order a mixed box and try all 5 flavors for yourself. Built, you got to try this. Get 15% off your order by using the promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Before we continue, I also want to talk to you guys about our friends over at My Solar Nerd. If you live in a sunny state like Arizona, it's likely that you've had a few people stop by offering you free solar. The truth is that many of these companies aren't local, and because they're using misleading tactics, they end up overcharging homeowners. If you've considered solar but something fell off, then you're going to love My Solar Nerd. Their mission is simple: help you get the best solar system to fit your needs. The guys at My Solar Nerd are local and understand the nuances of going solar in Arizona. They've been doing this for a while and understand that an educated customer is a happy customer. Their no pressure approach will make sure all your questions get answered. They firmly believe that if you live in Arizona, switching to solar should mean saving money. Once you're ready, they'll put their industry knowledge to work for you by choosing the best equipment, warranties, and BBB accredited installer. They'll also help you figure out all the credits and incentives you may qualify for, and they'll make sure that your transition to solar is as smooth as possible by managing the entire project for you and keeping you updated along the way. Our listeners will get a $50 gift card for Amazon when they book a no commitment evaluation. This promotion is only for our listeners that are homeowners. Visit mysolarnerd.com and select Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us section. Make the switch to solar on your terms. Start the research process by visiting mysolarnerd.com today and show Locked On a little love by letting them know we sent you. Folks, going solar doesn't need to be complicated. My Solar Nerd makes it easy. One last time, thank you so much for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. For your next listen, check out Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, instant recaps, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Let's wrap this bad boy up. You've lost a lot, but you haven't lost a lot. You've lost quantity. You haven't lost quality. If you were to lose a Jalen Conyers or a Elijah Badger or a Ro Torrance, then yes, the sky is falling. But these are guys that you can replace. Truly, like the biggest name that you're replacing in terms of production from 2022 is probably Anthonie Cooper with 2.5 sacks. Other than that, I mean, him and Omarr Norman-Lott and Joe Moore were all pretty much the same guy this year. So it's going to be hard to replace all three of them. But the Markham brothers left halfway through the year. Jace Feeley was a backup kicker. The long snappers are replaceable. Paul Tyson didn't see the field. Daniyel Ngata was running back too. And quite frankly, he never got a true opportunity. You knew he was leaving. LaDarius Henderson was gone half the year. So it's hard to miss him, I suppose. That being said, yes, it sucks that you're losing these guys. But Kenny Dillingham has been incredibly insistent that the team is going to attack the transfer portal. So keep the faith and don't stress, Sun Devil fans. There is a plan, and the Sun Devils are going to be ultra aggressive. I would not be surprised if in a week's time, there's like 3 or 4 new players on this team, not including Tristan Monday. I would not be surprised if 3 or 4 guys are on the team by this time next week. I truly wouldn't, because I anticipate Kenny Dillingham to be hyper aggressive in remaking this roster in his image and upgrading the roster entirely as well. So keep the faith, guys. Don't be too stressed out. If you are looking for names to keep an eye out on, you guys can check out my Monday podcast where I laid out 10 guys I'm looking for. Again, DJ Uyunglele is at the top of my list for quarterback. There's several other guys as well on the defensive side of the ball that I would love to see. Right now, we're still waiting for some chips to fall, though. There haven't been any like massive names on the defensive side of the ball that have gone yet. I know Oregon had a linebacker that left that we're probably going to target. So just keep your eyes peeled and make sure notifications are on for wherever you get your podcasts. Sorry about my dog just doing a little dance in the background. You guys can see on YouTube, and I'm sure you can hear her on the podcast right now. But I'll go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. Thank you guys so much, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So check us out wherever you're getting your podcast. Hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you get an update when we post new content. Stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can get me at Richie Bradshaw36. You can get the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devil. Stay tuned, guys, for all the news regarding the transfer portal, and get ready for more basketball talk, because the team is are they 8-1 or 7-1? I'm gonna lose my mind because I'm completely drawing a blank right now. They are currently, first of all, they're in first place in the Pac-12, which is just totally cool. But where is the record? Thank you. They're 8-1. 8-1 right now. And we got lots of basketball to talk about. So stay tuned, because we're going to be touching on that stuff as well on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Until next time, though, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.